I've been on 166 different roller coasters, and all of them are built with the intention of giving you some kind of fear, either with airtime, inversions, pacing, speed, height. So today, I'm going to be ranking my top 20 favorite roller coasters that I've been on. This is a personal list of mine. So maybe your favorite roller coaster isn't going to be on here. I know right now a lot of these rankings are going to shock a lot of people. But that's all right. We all have our own different opinions, and I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. So these are my top 20 favorite roller coasters. So starting at number 20, we're going to head to Hershey Park for their newest hypercoaster. This is Candymonium. Candymonium is the newest B&M hypercoaster that has opened around the world, and it's featured some of B&M's best airtime moments. B&M really refined their airtime hills for this ride. It has got a great speed hill, a really unique outer bank hill actually, that if you're sitting on the right side of the train in the back row, you actually get a really decent amount of airtime. It's just got a great mix of forces that really contrasts Sky Rush's intensity. However, it is not my favorite B&M hyper, partially due to the length and the ending of the ride. So I do have another hyper that's quite a bit higher than this in my rankings. Jumping from super thrilling to super themed, up at number 19 is Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. Man, that is a mouthful to say, but what a ride this is. I was completely blown away by all the theming and all the theatrics of this ride when I first rode it. Also, fun fact, I've only ridden this at night because, in my personal opinion, this is the only way you can get the true experience of riding Hagrid's motorbike through the dark forests of Harry Potter. Just a phenomenal ride that Universal was able to build here in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. And at number 18, we have a coaster that I don't have a lot of footage of. This is Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. This is a great RMC. It's probably the best mid-tier size RMC, given I haven't been on a lot of RMCs. This ride has a crazy abundance of airtime. It's got 20 airtime moments. That's crazy. It has 3 inversions. It doesn't have very many turns, but when it does turn, it basically turns it into an airtime moment, which is crazy. A lot of people might rank this a little bit higher, but for me personally, it just is a little too repetitive, which some people might like. And if that's your thing, by all means, rank this higher. I totally, completely understand. But for me, it's just a little bit too repetitive, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad ride. Coming in at the number 17 spot is the only European coaster on this list. This is Katun at Mirabilandia in Italy. Wow, guys, this is a fantastic B&M invert. It's like if you took Banshee's height and speed and basically put that into Raptor's layout, because this layout is very similar to Raptor at Cedar Point. And it's such a great ride, guys. I don't know why not a lot of people talk about it. I mean, it's super underrated, probably because it's in Italy, but it's phenomenal. It's got a great roar to it. It's super intense. It's got some low-to-the-ground moments. And it has this crazy helix at the end of the ride that completely makes your legs numb. It's nuts. Such a fantastic B&M invert. And for me personally, the best roller coaster in Italy that I've ridden. But not my favorite B&M invert, because my favorite B&M invert is Banshee at Kings Island, which is literally one-upping it. Although it may have a rattle, and I will admit to that, this ride is so intense, and it's not whippy, but it's intense in the valleys. And the valleys crush your brain and your legs. It's crazy. I love this ride so much. The use of the terrain is ridiculous. The fact that it reaches its max speed at the bottom of the pretzel knot mind boggles me. It's crazy. And I just love how the ride operators yell G-roll when it goes through the G-roll. Such an amazing ride. Definitely my number 2 at Kings Island. Coming in at number 15 is a new wooden coaster I rode this year. This is Phoenix at Knoebels. This ride only has a buzz bar. The park takes such great care of it. The airtime is the most ridiculous thing you will ever find. It's the only reason why this ride is so good is because of the buzz bars and the airtime that you get. I was probably half a foot out of my seat on the ending bunny hills and the double down. It is so good. I only got one ride on it, but it definitely makes me want to go back to Knoebels even more. It's not the number 1 wooden coaster in the world, and it's not the number 1 roller coaster in the world, so I don't really agree with that. But I can still understand why people rank this coaster so high. At number 14 is a coaster I rode at my first ever Six Flags park. This is Ride of Steel at Darien Lake. This is basically mini Millennium Force. Ask my friend Mitch, Coaster Travel. He will tell you that I would not stop comparing this to Millennium Force the whole day we were riding this. The pacing is awesome. Even though when we rode it, it was actually pretty chilly out. So I'd imagine on a hotter day, I'm going to like this thing even more. The front row is definitely my favorite for the sense of speed. The last couple airtime hills are great, and I'd imagine they'll be even better on a hotter day. But this ride has such great pacing. The helixes can be a little bit boring. They don't do too much, but it still maintains some really good speed through them, so they're alright. But definitely a ride that surprised me. I did not expect it to like it this much. But I do have another hypercoaster over it. This is Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood, a ride that I have not ridden since 2017. So it has been a long time coming. As you can tell from this POV, I have not ridden it since it has been repainted to its new purple color scheme. But this ride flies. This dive into the ravine right here is demonic. It is so crazy how much speed you pick up. You reach 85 miles an hour at the bottom of it. Then you twist up into this turn, which I gray out on sometimes. And then you have basically the steel version of Phoenix with the crazy minimalistic lap bars going over these bunny hills at the end of the ride to cap off your ride on Phantom's Revenge. So good. Coming in at the number 12 spot is my favorite B&M looper that I have ridden. This is Kumba at Busch Gardens, Tampa. This ride was my 100th roller coaster, so it has a really special place in my heart. But other than that, it has a fantastic layout, super solid. It has some really great speed going through the inversions. It doesn't really have any hang time. It just flies through and powers through everything. This ride is a powerhouse. That zero G roll there is so whippy. It's probably one of my favorite inversions. The ride also has a really great feel to it as well. It's not a rattle. It's not completely smooth, but it adds to the intensity. And you cannot tell me that there's a better sounding B&M out there. This is the best sounding roller coaster in the world. Like, in my opinion, there's no better sounding roller coaster. This ride is a slam dunk for Busch Gardens, and I hope they keep it around for the long haul. It's over 30 years old, and it is running phenomenally. At number 11 is another coaster with a great roar. This is Leviathan at my home park, Canada's Wonderland. This ride was the first ever B&M Giga Coaster. Wonderland put it right at the front gate. It makes a big, imposing impression. The GP at Wonderland absolutely love this thing. It's got a fantastic speed hill, probably the best speed hill on any B&M coaster. It's got some great speed, airtime. It has really funky hammerhead turn that has some weird profiling to it, but I love it. I've just made so many memories on this coaster with so many different friends and family. My grandma actually rode this coaster with me, which is really special. So she's a trooper, that's for sure. Leviathan is a great ride at Wonderland, but not my favorite ride at Canada's Wonderland. My favorite coaster at Wonderland is Behemoth. This is my baby. If you guys don't know, I was a ride operator at Behemoth, and I freaking love this ride with my whole heart. It is so good. It has a rattle, but the rattle doesn't bother me. I've gotten used to it, probably because I've ridden it the most out of any roller coaster in the world. This is my most ridden roller coaster. It's got some really great air time. The trim doesn't bother me. I find that maintenance has really toned down the trim lately. For those who didn't know, my famous line at Behemoth when I was operating it was yelling hammerhead whenever the train would enter this hammerhead turn. And it's got the best ending of any B&M hypercoaster out there. And yes, I do think it is the best B&M hypercoaster in the world. You guys can fight me on that in the comments. I will defend this ride so hard. You know that. The Helix is great. The Helix has some great positives. So this ride has a great mix of positive G's, and the final two airtime moments are a chef's kiss. The drop off of the upward Helix is the best airtime moment at Canada's Wonderland. Fight me in the comments right now. I've seen it all with this ride. I've got in trouble for commenting about a lift gear. This ride has so much sentimental value, you guys don't even know. So I could talk about this for days, but let's move on to the next coaster, which is my favorite B&M roller coaster. This is Orion at Kings Island. This is my favorite coaster at Kings Island, and I think that it gets way too much hate for it being not 300 feet tall and being too short and not having enough elements. I think what B&M did with this roller coaster is they took Leviathan's layout and they made every element hit. Maybe not the wave turn as much, but the wave turn does have some decent laterals to it. The turnaround is fun. I love how it twists down and you gain a lot of speed. It has a great speed hill, has a very basic B&M floater hill. The Helix has some decent force to it, and the last two moments, just like Behemoth, hit. The off-axis hill is one of the strongest airtime moments on any B&M coaster, and then the hop into the brake run just throws you up into your restraint. It's so good. And it has a way better night ride than Leviathan because it is actually dark back there. And coming in at the number 8 spot, oh my god, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. This is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Hear me out. This ride has the best layout of any roller coaster ever. I'll say it right now. It's got the best layout. It has so much airtime, the most airtime on any roller coaster ever. And I do think it is a little bit repetitive, but it definitely has a lot more diversity than Twisted Timbers. And the diversity is what puts it this high for me. The airtime moments are really, really good. Some moments hit better than others. Like the first couple elements are really, really strong, but I find kind of near the end it kind of hits some more floater hills. Like this double up here has a lot of floater. The ending bunny hills though have great ejector airtime. 6 hills in a row. That is crazy. You get no chance to breathe. And when I first rode it, it was my favorite roller coaster, but I've ridden so many coasters now that I really get the chance to see what I really like in a roller coaster. It's really good, but it's just not my type of number one coaster. And coming in at the number 7 spot is Skyrush at Hershey Park, probably one of the most intense roller coasters you will ever ride. When people say this ride is a car crash, they are not kidding. This ride in the back left seat feels like a car crash going down that drop. That has one of the best drops on any roller coaster ever. My favorite seat is the back middle seat. It's a little bit smoother back there, so it's a little bit easier to enjoy. The restraints do not bother me on this ride. They come a little bit tight, but you know what? RMC restraints are pretty similar to this, so I'm pretty used to it. So if it gets new restraints, it's just another bonus for me. So I really love this ride. It's got some crazy whip. The seats are so open so you can really feel the laterals. I don't think it's a short ride at all either. It's one of the greatest roller coasters ever built, and Intamin makes some insane creations like this. And moving to another Pennsylvania park for my number 6 is Ravine Flyer 2, my favorite wooden roller coaster, and probably the most insane terrain-based roller coaster you will ever find. This ride maintains its speed so well, diving down a ravine, going over a bridge over a road, giving you so much airtime. This pacing is awesome. Waldemir takes such great care of this roller coaster. It tracks so well. They retrack the ride pretty much every off-season, and the ride just is so much fun to marathon. I rode it with my friends on 3 separate occasions, and it is so much fun. It's not too much for the average rider. It's not the longest layout, but I don't think it is short either. It's got an awesome 90-degree bank turn, and if you catch it on a fast day, this ride hauls into the brake run. Definitely stop by Waldemir for at least an hour just to ride this, even if you ride it a couple times and forget about the other credits. This ride is worth a trip to Waldemir alone. And now we're on to the top 5, and at number 5 we have Intimidator 305, and probably what you guys are going to hear from everybody ever. This is the most intense roller coaster ever built, and I will stand by that and say yes, this is super intense. You can probably sense a trend here. A lot of my coasters that you're going to find in my top 7 to number 1 are highly paced rides, and this is one of them. This ride has 2 big moments, that one floater hill going under the lift hill and that 300-foot drop where you reach a speed of 90 miles an hour and you feel like you're going 90 miles an hour the whole time. This turn there with those snap turns is probably one of my favorite sequences on a coaster. You have crazy speed, and the whips, the snap turns are perfect. I haven't ridden this coaster since 2019, and I have a funny feeling if I ever get back to King's Dominion sometime soon, that this could even be my number 1 coaster. This ride could go up. I am so excited to get back to King's Dominion when I can. I-305 is phenomenal. And barely missing the top 3 is the tallest and fastest hyper hybrid roller coaster in the world. This is Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens, Tampa. And I've ridden this coaster in 2 separate occasions, in 2022 and in 2023. My 2022 rides flew. This ride hauled butt through the entire layout. It felt like the I-305 of RMCs for me personally. It didn't let up. My 2023 rides this past January were not as fast as I remembered, and that's probably due to it being cold out. But at one point this was my number 1 coaster, and I wish it ran consistently through the entire year. So it was unfortunate that I got some slower rides this past season. It has probably one of the best airtime moments. That wave turn that was earlier in the ride was phenomenal. It has so much whip to it. It flies into the brake run. I think it's a perfect length personally. And I hope the next time that I ride it, it'll be running as fast as it did in 2022. Because when it ran that fast, this ride was number 1 coaster for me. But it's not my number 1 RMC. Coming in at my number 3 spot, taking the bronze medal, is Wildcat's Revenge at Hershey Park. This ride has so much to love about it, and I was not expecting it to be this good. Let's start with the soundtrack. Soundtrack is so hype. The dispatches on this ride are crazy. The Wildcat's Revenge crew crosses trains, and I obsess over it. It makes it so much more re-rideable. There's not a dead spot on the ride. The wave turns hit. It's got amazing mix of airtime, hang time, inversions, fast pace. The double down with the lateral turn makes me laugh so hard because it's nothing like I've ever experienced on any roller coaster ever. And the final two inversions are so whippy. This ride was so much fun to marathon and easily my number one RMC and my favorite coaster in the state of Pennsylvania. Coming in at the number 2 spot is probably the most perfect roller coaster. This is Veloci Coaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure. This ride is, like I said, perfect. The thematics on the launch sequence hype you up so much. It's got a great pre-show. The locker system is awesome. I waited 2 hours for it every single time, and I would continue to wait 2 hours for it. This ride is that good. People say it looks slow going through the first half, but I can guarantee you the rock work and the theming makes it feel faster. It's got some great moments in the first half, but then when you kick into the second launch, oh my god. This ride kicks it into a whole other gear. You blast up the top hat, get some crazy airtime no matter what row you're in, and then you're on this high-speed adventure all over the lagoon of Universal, flying through a stall, which is amazing. Then you twist up into a wave turn, which has some decent airtime, and then you go into this outer bank turn that has some crazy laterals and airtime, and then end off with the most insane inversion ever. The best inversion ever, the Mosasaurus roll. It is upside down airtime. That is the best way I can describe this element to you guys. Universal killed it with this ride. This ride set the bar so high for any other roller coaster ever built in the next coming years. Just everything about it. The trains have the lights. Oh my god, guys, I could talk about Veloci Coaster all day long. Just go to Universal, go to Islands of Adventure, skip studios, just ride Veloci Coaster. It's that good. But it is not my number one roller coaster. My number one roller coaster, my favorite roller coaster of all time, is the one, the only Millennium Force at Cedar Point. This ride has an ambiance. It has the best soundtrack of any roller coaster in the world. I listen to it on repeat every single day. It has so much speed. I said these other rides have speed. No. Millennium Force has the speed, guys. This ride sets itself on cruise control at 93 miles an hour and you feel the speed. I've actually never ridden this ride in the front row. I've only ridden the back row, and I am so excited next year to be riding this coaster in the front row and experiencing the full power of Millennium Force. It's such a gorgeous ride. When it's operated correctly at the correct interval, it is just perfect. Like I said, great speed, fantastic drop, decent forces going through the overbank. A lot of people sleep on those overbanks and say that they're boring. No. They have speed and force, guys. Millennium Force is not forceless by the slightest. And I hope by putting it at number 1 that I'm not overhyping it for a lot of people, because for a lot of people this won't be in their top 10. And that's respectable because this is not everybody's type of ride. This is my kind of ride. If there is another coaster that is built that is even remotely similar to Millennium Force, I'm looking at Hyperion out there, because that ride will be somewhere in my top 5, that's for sure. But Millennium Force is just perfect the way it is. I wouldn't change anything about it. I didn't even mention the speed hill. Guys, Millennium Force has a great speed hill. Yes, it's not all about the airtime, but like I said, speed is my number 1 favorite thing in a roller coaster, and Millennium Force does it best if you ask me. So this is my number 1 roller coaster ever and my favorite roller coaster. I don't see it changing anytime soon, and I'm so excited to get back to Cedar Point to ride it next year. So let me know down in the comments, what is your favorite roller coaster? What's your top 10? I'm dying to see. I know a lot of you guys are going to disagree with my rankings, but that is okay because everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and I am not here to judge anybody for saying that Millennium Force is their number 100th roller coaster. But again, let me know down in the comments, and I'll try and respond to you guys as best as I can. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope I didn't trigger you guys too much. Stay tuned for more videos to come in the future. Take it easy, guys. I'll see you later.